the games tomorrow, like the first game of spring, like obviously there's not a whole lot of stakes involved, but what are you going to be looking for?
Golden grapefruit. We got to defend it. It's pitching, getting their pitch count up. Health first and foremost, obviously, but watching guys timing at the plate, just getting back out there for a few innings. But I think first time through with all the pitchers, kind of get their stuff where hopefully they should be and get their pitch count where it should be, and get everyone on to the next game.
John, just bigger picture as you're kind of thinking about some of the things you have to settle, what are some of the things that you will look for in games to help settle some of the decisions that you have to make?
We're pretty, thankfully, knock on wood, pretty set, but I think as the games get going, just kind of watching specific things and how certain guys can help us win, whether that's a reliever, whether that's someone running the bases correctly, or kind of just the competitiveness of their at-bats. That's kind of what we're going to hone in on, things that we think are areas that we can get better at than what we were last year. So early, just kind of getting their bearings, but I think, as we get going, we're going to try to force some matchups or force some situations that we want to see guys in, and see how they respond.
John, with your starters, like I'm thinking how Gaz normally throws here, like how some guys have preferences. Is that all the same this year, or is anybody out of the ordinary?
Pretty similar. Guys, they don't really mind if they're going on the road. It kind of depends on who you're playing and do they want to stay back here and pitch in a minor league game, that kind of stuff. But I think they're all probably going to make at least one road trip, and they're good with that, which is cool. It kind of started last year where guys didn't really mind going on the road, position players and pitchers, but we'll try to keep guys away from certain people and certain opponents that may be in our division or something like that, but try to work around them as best we can.
John, the extra month last year, we tend to think about these things in terms of pitchers, but factor into how many at-bats you're going to get your position players as well in terms of how do you balancing the extra work versus their readiness this year?
I think with pitchers, much more so than our position players. Definitely have a benchmark of at-bats for certain guys. Some are different than, some are less, some are more. But I think pitchers more, some guy you'll see, some guys will be a little bit different schedule, a little bit later when they get into games and things like that, and a little bit different ramp up for guys that pitch deep into the World Series. But I think for the position players, they all kind of understood it's going to be a short off season. WBC throws a wrinkle in that, obviously, for some guys, and want to hit their at-bats for sure.
John, it seems like Vladdy and Okamoto spent a lot of time together,
Yeah.
and they were doing drills today. What have you seen in that relationship, and how important is it that it's Vladdy who's the guy doing that?
Yeah, I think Vladdy and George especially, George has been close to him. I've tried to be close to him. Vladdy, I think, for a guy that can kind of talk first base with him a little bit, talk hitting with him a little bit. I know Vlad said it's easy to talk to him because he speaks some Spanish, but it's I'll see how that unfolds. But it's nice with anyone really coming to this team, first year, whether it's Dylan and Cody with Kev and Jose, or Okamoto with Vlad, George, Varsh, those guys. I think the more they're around each other, the better. They're kind of hitting it off. I think Okamoto has become a team favorite in the clubhouse already, and rightfully so. He's got a pretty funny sense of humor, and I think the more he can stick with Vlad, the better.
What kind of questions is he asking to you and to George and Vlad?
In particular, kind of, just understanding how his offensive profile fits our offensive style and what he can kind of do more or less of. Him and George had a really good conversation yesterday just about count leverage and when to take what kind of swing. Again, his profile, he can make contact and he can drive the ball, so kind of picking your spots, and he's been really receptive to everything. Again, we're not trying to have him do anything he hasn't done. That's why we acquired him, but I think just understanding kind of how he fits within the 9 guys that are in there every night. So those have been good, and from a defensive standpoint, there's going to be some changes. There's going to be a little bit of a different style of game, and I think he's picked up on that. Just going over bunt plays and cuts and relays. It's the same game still, but he's asking questions about pitch clock, about guys' athleticism off the mound when we're talking about bunts, guys' arms in the outfield, things like that. He's asked some really good questions, and we're just trying to stay ahead of some of the differences that may be in Major League Baseball and what he's accustomed to.
Is there anything you guys can take from him, like anything he's bringing? I just think to last year, like Yamamoto brought some new stuff that the Dodgers had not seen before, and they ended up taking up. Is there anything he's done that you guys hadn't seen before?
He's got a pretty deliberate cage routine. I know that, and I think everyone kind of varies in that when they're getting ready to hit. But the one thing he has said is that the days are pretty condensed here compared to what he's used to in Japan, where they're on the field for longer periods of time. So we try to be as efficient as we can in spring, get on the field, get off the field. But there's definitely some things I think that we want to not just, hey, here's what we think, here's how it's going to be, but tap into him, because when you're playing at a high level like that, no one has every answer. So there's definitely some things I think when it comes to the prep that we're kind of leaning into too.